Engines idling in the middle of the Atlantic, a Russian tanker carrying lifeline fuels suddenly stops. Nearly 200,000 barrels meant for a darkening Cuba now drifting without a destination as sanctions tighten and ships vanish from radar. This isn't just maritime confusion. Is Washington quietly enforcing an oil blockade at sea? A Russian tanker believed to be carrying fuel to crisis-hit Cuba has halted its voyage in the Atlantic Ocean, casting fresh uncertainty over energy supplies to the island as Washington tightens its grip on oil flows in the region. Ship tracking data on February 25th showed the Hong Kong-flagged vessel Seahorse drifting in the North Atlantic. According to maritime intelligence firms including tankertrackers.com and Halted, the tanker had loaded fuel via a ship-to-ship transfer in the Mediterranean, reportedly off Cyprus, and was likely transporting close to 200,000 barrels of Russian gasoil. The cargo had been expected to reach Cuban waters later this week based on its previous speed and trajectory. Hong Kong Hangda Shipping Ltd, listed in maritime databases as the owner and manager of the vessel, has not yet commented on the development. Maritime intelligence firm Windward said the tanker had an expected arrival in Cuba in early March. The vessel altered its automatic identification system, AIS, signal to show it would arrive in the Caribbean Sea within 2 weeks, a vague designation the firm said is often used to hide a ship's final port of call. The destination was later switched again to Gibraltar for orders, even after the tanker had already transited the strait, a move Windward described as inconsistent with standard commercial routing. During the loading process, the tanker's AIS signal was temporarily switched off.
A tactic of deceptive maritime operations designed to avoid regulatory scrutiny.
Windward data also shows the vessel's draft increased on February 8th, several days after leaving an area used for floating storage and transshipment of Russian middle distillate cargoes originating from Black Sea ports. The tanker had loitered in that zone for roughly 2 weeks before departing, Windward said.
Ship-to-ship transfers outside territorial waters, where port state oversight is limited, have become a common practice in oil trade to circumvent sanctions and regulatory scrutiny.
The apparent diversion represents a setback for Cuba, which is grappling with acute fuel shortages affecting electricity generation, transport, and domestic consumption. Available power has fallen sharply since the beginning of the year, with satellite imagery indicating that nighttime light levels have declined by as much as 50%. The interruption comes amid sweeping changes to Venezuela's oil export regime. After the capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro earlier this year, the United States assumed control over Venezuela's oil exports and associated revenues under an agreement with the interim government led by Delcy Rodriguez. Since January, no cargoes have departed Venezuelan ports without authorization from Washington. Cuba had relied on Venezuela for more than 25 years as its principal supplier of crude and fuel under a bilateral arrangement largely based on barter. However, shipments have ceased, deepening the island's energy crisis. Mexico, which had emerged as an alternative supplier, also halted exports after a January cargo reached Havana. Large trading houses such as Vitol and Trafigura handle a significant portion of Venezuelan exports, with oil shipped to the United States, Europe, and India, and stored at Caribbean terminals for resale. US President Donald Trump has said that countries receiving Venezuelan oil through swaps or debt repayments must now pay market prices. He has also threatened tariffs on nations supplying fuel to Cuba, a move that has contributed to Mexico suspending shipments. US naval enforcement efforts in the Caribbean have reportedly deterred vessels from approaching the island, with at least 9 ships linked to sanctioned oil seized.